The morning sun cast long shadows across the pristine grounds of Buckingham Palace as 8-year-old Prince William walked alongside his younger brother Harry through the carefully manicured gardens. The boys had been given permission to explore the palace grounds after their morning lessons, a rare treat that they cherished during their visits to their grandmother's residence. William's sharp eyes, already showing the observant nature that would serve him well in his future role, caught sight of something unusual near the servants' quarters. A palace guard, dressed in his formal red tunic and black trousers, was struggling with what appeared to be a heavy bag of mail. The guard, a middle-aged man named Thomas Richardson who had served the royal family faithfully for over 15 years, was clearly having difficulty managing the load while maintaining his dignified posture. Thomas had been dealing with a persistent back injury that had been bothering him for weeks, but he was too proud and too dedicated to his duties to request help or take time off. The royal mail service was particularly heavy that day, filled with congratulatory letters and official documents that needed to be sorted and distributed throughout the palace. Each bag weighed considerably more than usual, and Thomas found himself pausing frequently to catch his breath and adjust his grip. Prince William stopped in his tracks, his young mind processing the scene before him. Despite his privileged upbringing, the prince had been taught by his parents, Prince Charles and Princess Diana, about the importance of kindness, compassion, and recognizing when others needed assistance. Diana, in particular, had made it a point to teach her sons that their royal status should never prevent them from showing basic human decency to those around them. The guard continued his struggle, unaware that he was being observed by one of the young royals. Thomas was determined to complete his task without drawing attention to his difficulties, as he had always prided himself on his professionalism and reliability. However, the physical strain was becoming increasingly apparent as he paused again, setting down the heavy bag and placing his hand on his lower back. Prince Harry, following his older brother's gaze, also noticed the guard's predicament. The younger prince looked to William with curiosity, wondering what they should do in this situation. Their tutors had taught them about protocol and proper behavior, but this seemed like a moment that called for something beyond formal etiquette. William's mind raced as he considered his options. He could simply walk past and pretend he hadn't noticed, as many might expect a young royal to do. Alternatively, he could approach the situation with the same compassion his mother had always demonstrated when encountering people in need. The choice seemed clear to the young prince, who had inherited not only his royal title, but also a strong sense of moral responsibility. Without hesitation, Prince William approached the struggling guard with the confidence that came naturally to him, even at his young age. Thomas Richardson looked up in surprise as he noticed the young prince walking directly toward him. His first instinct was to straighten his posture and attempt to hide his struggle, as protocol demanded that he maintain his professional composure at all times, especially in the presence of royal family members. "Good morning, sir," William said politely, his voice carrying the refined accent that had been carefully cultivated through his education. "I couldn't help but notice that you're having some difficulty with those bags. They look quite heavy." Thomas felt his cheeks flush with embarrassment as he realized his struggle had been observed. He quickly attempted to lift the bag again, determined to show that he was capable of handling his duties without assistance. "Good morning, Your Royal Highness," he replied formally, slightly out of breath. "Please don't concern yourself with my work. I'm managing quite well, thank you." However, William's keen observation skills, which had been sharpened through his royal training and natural intelligence, allowed him to see through the guard's polite deflection. The prince could clearly see the strain in Thomas's face and the way he favored one side of his body, indicating that he was indeed struggling with the physical demands of his task. Prince Harry had caught up to his brother and stood quietly beside him, watching the interaction with interest. The younger prince had always looked up to William and was curious to see how his older brother would handle this delicate situation. Both boys had been raised to respect the staff who worked tirelessly to maintain the royal household, and they understood that these individuals deserved to be treated with dignity and kindness. William's expression grew more determined as he processed the guard's response. The young prince had inherited his mother's ability to read people and situations, and he could sense that Thomas was struggling despite his protestations to the contrary. Diana had always taught her sons that true leadership meant recognizing when others needed help and having the courage to step in. regardless of social conventions or potential awkwardness. With respect, "Sir," William continued, his tone remaining polite but becoming more insistent, "I can see that those bags are causing you some discomfort. My brother and I would be happy to help you carry them to wherever they need to go." Thomas was taken aback by the young prince's persistence and genuine concern. In his 15 years of service to the royal family, he had encountered many members of the household, but rarely had he experienced such direct and personal attention to his well-being from someone so young and of such high status. The guard found himself torn between his professional pride and his growing appreciation for the prince's kindness. The situation reached a pivotal moment when Prince William stepped closer to the guard and gently but firmly took hold of one of the heavy mail bags. His action was swift and decisive, leaving Thomas Richardson little choice but to accept the assistance being offered. The young prince's determination was evident as he tested the weight of the bag and immediately understood why the guard had been struggling. "These are indeed very heavy," William acknowledged, looking directly at Thomas with a mixture of respect and understanding. "There's no shame in accepting help when it's needed. My mother has always taught us that we're all here to support one another, regardless of our positions." Thomas felt his resistance beginning to crumble as he witnessed the genuine sincerity in the young prince's words and actions. The guard had spent years observing the royal family from a respectful distance, but this close interaction revealed a side of Prince William that few people had the opportunity to experience. The boy's maturity and compassion were remarkable for someone so young. Prince Harry, inspired by his brother's example, also stepped forward to assist with the remaining bags. The younger prince may have been less confident in social situations than William, but he possessed the same innate kindness that ran through the royal family. Together, the two boys began to distribute the weight of the mail bags between themselves and the grateful guard. As they began walking toward the mail sorting area, Thomas found himself in the unusual position of engaging in casual conversation with two young members of the royal family. The guard, who had always maintained strict professional boundaries, discovered that the princes were genuinely interested in learning about his work and his experiences at the palace. "How long have you been working here, Mr. Richardson?" William inquired, having learned the guard's name from his identification badge. The prince's question demonstrated not only his excellent memory for details, but also his genuine interest in the people who served his family. Thomas was impressed that the young prince had taken the time to read and remember his name. 15 years this coming October, Your Royal Highness," he replied, his voice carrying a note of pride despite his earlier embarrassment. "I began working here shortly after your parents' wedding, and I've had the honor of watching you and your brother grow up from a distance." The conversation continued naturally as they made their way through the palace corridors, with both princes asking thoughtful questions about Thomas's duties and responsibilities. The guard found himself sharing stories about his work, his family, and his dedication to serving the royal household. What had begun as an embarrassing situation was transforming into one of the most meaningful interactions he had experienced during his tenure at the palace. As they reached the mail sorting room, Prince William made a decision that would surprise everyone present, including his younger brother. Instead of simply delivering the bags and departing, the young prince announced his intention to help Thomas sort through the correspondence. This was completely unprecedented, as royal family members typically had no involvement in the day-to-day operational tasks of the palace staff. "We have some free time before our afternoon lessons," William explained to Thomas, who looked uncertain about whether such assistance would be appropriate. "Perhaps we could help you organize these letters and packages. It might be interesting to learn more about how the palace mail system operates." Thomas glanced around nervously, aware that other staff members had begun to notice the unusual scene of two young royals volunteering to assist with routine mail duties. The guard was torn between his appreciation for their kindness and his concern about potential breaches of protocol. However, William's confident demeanor and genuine enthusiasm made it difficult to refuse the offer. Prince Harry, following his brother's lead, had already begun examining some of the letters and packages with curiosity. The younger prince was particularly fascinated by the variety of international postmarks and the elaborate writing styles used by some of the correspondents. His natural inquisitiveness led him to ask questions about the different types of mail that the royal family received and how it was all processed. Other members of the palace staff began to gather discreetly, amazed by the sight of the two young princes working alongside Thomas to sort through the mail. Some of the older staff members exchanged knowing glances, recognizing that this behavior reflected the values that Princess Diana had been instilling in her sons. The princess had always emphasized the importance of treating everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of their position or status. William demonstrated remarkable organization skills as he helped create different piles for various types of correspondence: official government documents, personal letters from friends and family, invitations to events, and general public mail. His attention to detail and systematic approach impressed Thomas, who began to see qualities in the young prince that suggested he would one day make an excellent leader. The work proceeded efficiently with the additional help, and Thomas found his back pain beginning to subside as the physical demands of his task were distributed among the three of them. The guard was struck by how naturally the princes adapted to the work, showing no signs of considering themselves above such tasks, despite their elevated status in society. As they worked together, William took the opportunity to ask Thomas about his personal life and interests outside of his palace duties. The guard shared stories about his family, his hobbies, and his pride in serving the royal household. This personal connection helped bridge the gap between their different positions and created a sense of mutual respect and understanding that transcended traditional hierarchical boundaries. The unexpected mail sorting session was interrupted when Princess Diana herself appeared in the doorway of the sorting room. The princess had been searching for her sons after being informed by their tutor that they had not returned for their scheduled afternoon lesson. Her surprise at finding William and Harry working alongside a palace guard was evident, but rather than expressing displeasure, her face broke into a warm smile. "I see you boys have found an interesting way to spend your free time," Diana said, her voice carrying a mixture of amusement and pride. She approached the group and observed the organized piles of mail that had been created through their collaborative effort. The princess immediately understood what had transpired and felt a surge of maternal pride at her sons' demonstration of compassion and helpfulness. Thomas Richardson immediately straightened to attention upon seeing Princess Diana, his face flushing with concern about how the unusual situation might be perceived. "Your Royal Highness, I must apologize," he began, but Diana raised her hand gently to stop him from continuing his explanation. "There's absolutely no need to apologize, Mr. Richardson," Diana replied warmly. "It appears my sons have been learning some valuable lessons about teamwork and service today. I couldn't be more pleased with their choice to help you with your duties." Prince William looked up at his mother with a mixture of pride and slight apprehension, unsure whether their impromptu assistance might have violated some protocol he wasn't aware of. However, Diana's approving expression quickly put his concerns to rest. The princess had always encouraged her sons to show kindness to others, and seeing them put those lessons into practice filled her with joy. Diana turned her attention to Thomas, inquiring about his well-being and expressing genuine concern about the back injury that had made his work challenging. The princess's personal attention to the guard's condition demonstrated the same compassionate nature that she had been teaching her sons, and Thomas found himself deeply moved by her sincere interest in his welfare. "Perhaps we should arrange for you to see the palace physician about that back pain," Diana suggested to Thomas. "We certainly don't want any of our dedicated staff members to suffer unnecessarily, especially when there might be treatment available to help." The conversation that followed revealed Diana's remarkable ability to connect with people from all walks of life. She engaged Thomas in discussion about his family, his years of service, and his thoughts about working at the palace. The guard found himself opening up to the princess in a way that he had never expected, sharing details about his life and experiences that went far beyond the typical formal interactions between royalty and staff. Prince Harry had been quietly observing his mother's interaction with Thomas, absorbing lessons about leadership, compassion, and genuine human connection that no formal education could provide. The younger prince was learning that true nobility came not from titles or position, but from how one treated others with dignity and respect. The following day brought an unexpected development that would forever change Thomas Richardson's perspective on his role within the royal household. Princess Diana had spoken privately with the palace administration about the previous days. Events and arrangements had been made for Thomas to receive proper medical attention for his back injury. Additionally, the princess had requested that the mail handling procedures be reviewed, to ensure that no single staff member would be overwhelmed by excessive physical demands. Prince William sought out Thomas during his morning walk through the palace grounds, eager to check on the guard's condition and to continue the friendship that had begun to develop between them. The young prince's genuine concern for Thomas's well-being reflected the deep impact that their interaction had made on both of them. "Good morning, Mr. Richardson." William greeted the guard with a warm smile. "How are you feeling today? I hope your back is giving you less trouble." Thomas was touched by the prince's continued interest in his welfare. The guard had spent a largely sleepless night reflecting on the events of the previous day and marveling at the kindness he had received from the royal family. "Much better, thank you, Your Royal Highness," he replied gratefully. "Her Royal Highness arranged for me to see the palace physician, and I've been given some exercises and medication that should help tremendously." The conversation between William and Thomas had attracted the attention of other staff members, who observed with amazement the ongoing connection between the young prince and the longtime palace guard. Word of the previous day's events had spread throughout the household, creating a buzz of admiration for the compassionate behavior demonstrated by both young princes. Prince William's interest in Thomas's work continued as he asked detailed questions about the various aspects of palace security and mail handling. The prince's curiosity was genuine, and Thomas found himself serving as an informal educator, sharing insights about the complex operations that kept the royal household functioning smoothly. During their conversation, Thomas revealed that he had been considering requesting a transfer to less physically demanding duties due to his back problems, but the support and medical attention he had received had renewed his confidence in his ability to continue in his current role. The guard expressed his gratitude not only for the practical assistance he had received, but also for the dignity with which he had been treated throughout the entire experience. Other members of the royal staff had begun to take notice of the positive changes in workplace culture that seemed to be emerging from this single incident. The princess's attention to staff welfare and the prince's demonstration of compassion had created a ripple effect throughout the palace, encouraging greater communication and mutual support among all levels of the household. The impact extended beyond the immediate participants as Thomas found himself becoming something of an inspiration to his fellow staff members. His experience demonstrated that the royal family truly valued the contributions of every person in their service, and that their well-being was a genuine priority rather than merely a matter of public relations. Years passed, and the impact of that single morning encounter continued to resonate throughout Thomas Richardson's life and career. The guard, whose back had healed completely thanks to the medical attention arranged by Princess Diana, had become one of the most respected and valued members of the palace staff. His story of the young prince's compassion became legendary among the household, serving as a powerful example of the values that the royal family sought to embody. Thomas often reflected on how a moment of struggle had transformed into one of the most meaningful experiences of his life. The interaction had taught him that true leadership was not about maintaining distance and formality, but about recognizing the humanity in others and responding with genuine care and concern. The lesson had influenced his own approach to working with newer staff members, as he made sure to offer assistance and support to anyone who might be struggling with their duties. Prince William, now grown into a confident young man, occasionally encountered Thomas during visits to the palace. Their exchanges always carried the warmth and mutual respect that had been established during their first meaningful interaction. The prince never forgot the lesson he had learned about the importance of paying attention to those around him and offering help when it was needed, regardless of social conventions or protocol. The story of the royal child who spotted a guard struggling and chose to take action rather than simply walk past became part of the palace's informal history. Staff members would share the tale with new employees as an example of the character and values that the royal family demonstrated behind closed doors. It served as a reminder that genuine nobility came from actions rather than titles, and that small gestures of kindness could have profound and lasting impacts. Thomas Richardson eventually retired from active duty at the palace, but he maintained his connection to the royal household through special events and ceremonies. His final years of service were marked by the deep satisfaction of knowing that he had been part of a tradition of mutual respect and care that would continue long after his departure. The incident had also influenced Prince William's approach to his future royal duties. As he grew older and took on more responsibilities, he consistently demonstrated the same willingness to connect personally with people from all backgrounds that he had shown as a child. The lesson about seeing and responding to others' struggles became a cornerstone of his leadership style and his approach to public service. In the end, what had begun as a simple observation of someone in need had created lasting bonds of respect and friendship that transcended the traditional boundaries between royalty and staff. The story served as a powerful reminder that acts of compassion, no matter how small they might seem at the time, have the potential to change lives and inspire others to follow similar examples of kindness and human decency. Thomas Richardson's experience became a testament to the idea that true greatness lies not in one's position or status, but in one's willingness to help others and treat every person with dignity and respect.